Good Monday morning, it's Alex here, and today I've got a story for you. So today I want to tell you a story about how we invented design patterns, or more specifically, how we got inspired by an architect to create programming design patterns. The whole thing starts somewhere in the 1970s. I don't know the exact year, but the University of Oregon had a lot of problems with their campus. So apparently there were like log trucks going through the campus. There was like some cemetery that had to be destroyed, like for a campus building or something. I don't exactly know, but there were a lot of trouble. There was a lot of trouble. And naturally, like people were protesting. So students were protesting, faculty members as well. They wanted change. They wanted this place to become better. So the campus hired the architect Christopher Alexander to redesign it. And you would imagine that like the bar for design is not high. Like if this campus was organized in such a way up until now, like he could make anything like his mind can conjure and he will make something better. So like normally I would imagine that if someone is given the shot at this, like they'd be happy to jump on the opportunity and flex like their knowledge about design, about aesthetics, and about like architecture and organization of like urban planning in order to make something like just make their wildest dreams come true. But to everyone's surprise, like I don't know if they specifically hired him because of that, but Alexander had a different approach. He kind of let the campus design itself. So instead of like going with a grand plan, like designing everything in his head up front, doing the equivalent of what we call waterfall planning and programming, he kind of let the campus, he gave the campus a voice, and he just implemented the things that people wanted there. So they started by observing foot traffic in the campus. They were like seeing how students walk like from one class to another, from one building to another. They were observing how like where they cross the lawns, like just how they use the spaces. He interviewed students, faculty members, university staff, everyone. He wanted to understand like what are the things that the people want, how do they actually use the space, and how can we like make these buildings and make these places better based on what they already do. Christopher Alexander believed that design followed function. So if you really understood how something is supposed to work, it was going to practically design itself. And if you have a good understanding of how people want to use this campus and spend time on it, you won't have a trouble like designing the spaces and the buildings around that. He believed that design for the sake of design, like making something aesthetically pleasing or beautiful just for the sake of it, wasn't what people wanted. Like they wanted habitable spaces, they wanted livable spaces, they wanted spaces that they could feel that could feel like a home. A good example of this is like when you walk into an office building. Like I don't feel at home when I go to the office. Like I feel like I should be sitting there with my back straight. Like I go there, I spend some time like adjusting the height of my chair because we're hot desking and everybody's using a different desk. Then like I adjust like the desk itself, I clean it up if someone had left something from the day before, then I go wait in line for like the coffee machine, then I have to find like an angle in which like the sun is not going straight into my monitor and I can actually see what's going on. Like it's not organized in a way that I like. And on the other side, like when I come home, I feel at ease. You know, everything is where I want it to be. Everything is made to be comfortable. Everything is organized around my way of living and the things that I want to do in this space. And you can say that the office is obviously not a home. Like the office is a space meant for work, but not every home is a home as well. Because like you've probably seen those overly designed apartments where everything is just, you know, designed to perfection, but if you move one piece of furniture like from one place like to the room to another, or if you change like the place of the couch and the dining table, like everything just it just looks awful because it wasn't meant to be adjustable. It wasn't meant to be a livable place. It was meant to be something rigid that you just design once, you put it there, you enjoy it as it is, and if you don't like it, tough luck. That's just how it's supposed to be. Christopher Alexander believed that there is a specific quality that makes buildings and apartments livable spaces. We couldn't say that it was the lighting, the space, or the temperature, or anything specific, but we knew when this quality was present. And it wasn't just something that's based on vibes, because people's opinions tend to converge. Like if you ask a bunch of different people how they feel in a particular place, like their opinions are gonna align. But because it was so hard to actually name what this quality was, he said that this was the quality without a name. And of course, architects should design buildings based on this quality. But if you cannot name it, then how do you actually like make a space that has this quality? Like if you can't put it into words. So Alexander started working on what he called a pattern language. So these were different ideas and principles that are present in such livable and habitable spaces. And if you apply them like in any space, it will become habitable as well. Like he said that people like to spend time in well-lit rooms and well-lit spaces. So you should have like 2 windows on adjacent walls in like your living room, so people would naturally want to spend time there. So he doesn't tell you like what should like the spacing be. He doesn't talk about inches and materials and like what size the windows should be and how like what material, what brand they should be or anything like that. He just says if you want good lighting in a room and you want people to spend time there, put the windows on 2 adjacent sides so the room, you know, is well lit. Of course, like every building is different, like every house is different, but these principles are abstract enough for you to be able to apply them. I learned about Alexander from a book called Patterns of Software, which was written in 1997, and I didn't know that he was such a big inspiration to software engineers. The Gang of Four Design Patterns book, I think, what was it called? The Head First Design Patterns, something like this. It was heavily inspired by Christopher Alexander and his idea for a pattern language. So the same way that he wanted to create like livable and habitable spaces through patterns like the one with the windows that I just told you, like the engineers behind the Gang of Four Design Patterns book, they said, okay, this is actually very relevant to software engineering as well. Like we cannot say which is like the one quality or the one factor that makes like a code base habitable and easy to understand, but we can see like which are the repeating patterns that are present in all these code bases, and we can like take them out as principles, and we can like start applying them widely. So they came up with like the strategy design pattern, the builder design pattern, the observer design pattern, because these were actual solutions to problems that we kept having repeatedly as engineers. The way that we kind of took Alexander's idea wrong is that we try to be too prescriptive with these design patterns. Like early in my career, I've been to interviews where people expected me to write down a specific implementation of the strategy design pattern. Even then, I thought that this is just a basic idea. This is just some abstract concept that you can apply everywhere. But if you only learn like the OOP application of this idea, you're only going to be able ever to use it in like a super specific environment. But the whole idea like behind the strategy can be applied like in multiple different places. You can even apply it in React, even though it's not like an object-oriented environment, even though it's like functionally oriented. Alexander actually has a good quote about this that I'm going to read out. But as things are, we have so far beset ourselves with rules and concepts and ideas of what must be done to make a building or a torrent alive, that we have become afraid of what will happen naturally and convinced that we must work within a system and with methods, since without them our surroundings will come tumbling down in chaos. His patterns and his pattern language was never meant to be about hard rules. And the same way, like if you create an overly designed apartment, is going to look good if you never change anything in it. The same way you can create like the perfect structure and the perfect architecture for a code base, and it's going to look marvelous if you never have to go back and change something in it. But code lives, code changes all the time, and code needs to be built around its extensibility and its ability to change. And this is where these design patterns actually help. Like nowadays people are reluctant to use them because they feel that they are too rigid and they're shoehorning them into specific like abstractions that may not be like a good solutions to what they have. But this is because we're not applying the idea, we're applying like the specific implementation of that idea, which may not be ideal like to every case. And we don't talk about this enough in software development because we're too focused on correctness. Of course, correctness is easier to prove. Like your code either has like the output that it's supposed to have or it doesn't. Like you either store something in the database successfully or you don't. Like this is easy to prove. And I can understand that this gives like a sense of accomplishment to people because like you do something, you get the expected result, everything works. But if you have to talk about this quality without a name that Alexander has and talk about design and try to figure out like what's the best API for this function or what's like the best way to organize this this class or something, this can seem a little bit subjective, and it takes time and it forces you to like meet a part of you that is not always right, and it's not that easy like to get the the good result. I'm gonna read you another quote from Christopher. We have been taught that there is no objective difference between good buildings and bad, good towns and bad. The fact is that the difference between a good building and a bad building, between a good town and a bad town, is an objective matter. It's the difference between health and sickness, wholeness and dividedness, self-maintenance and self-destruction. In a world which is healthy, whole, alive, and self-maintaining, people themselves can be alive and self-creating. In a world which is unwhole and self-destroying, people cannot be alive. They will inevitably themselves be self-destroying and miserable. But it's easy to understand why people believe so firmly that there is no single solid basis for the difference between good buildings and bad. It happens because the single central quality which makes the difference cannot be named. Precisely, because it's very hard to pinpoint exactly what is making this successful. And it's the same in programming. It's very hard for us to pinpoint which is the quality that is making this code base easy to work with. So yeah, I think Christopher Alexander's idea is very much applicable in software engineering, but the problem is that it just doesn't have a name. This is going to be all for today. Let me know if you liked it, and see you next Monday.